Well, let's go ahead and get started. We have a wonderful session set for you today. Thank you for logging on and joining us for our February Centering Servingness webinar. On behalf of Faculty Affairs and HSI Initiatives at the University of Arizona, we welcome you, especially all of our folks who are joining from across the country. We're excited that you're joining all of us in community at the University of Arizona. I'm Judy Marquez Kiyama, and I serve as the Associate Vice Provost for Faculty Development. We begin today's webinar by respectfully acknowledging the University of Arizona is on the land and territories of Indigenous peoples. Today, Arizona is home to 22 federally recognized tribes, with Tucson being home to the Orem and the Yaqui. Committed to diversity and inclusion, the university strives to build sustainable relationships with sovereign native nations and Indigenous communities through education offerings, partnerships, and community service. Today's webinar features servingness through the arts. When considering the notion of servingness, we draw on Gina Garcia's extensive body of work. Dr. Garcia, her research helps us to inform this webinar series, which features faculty, staff, and today's students. We're so excited to have you all here, who engage in scholarship and servingness efforts that honor the cultures and lived experiences of Latinx, Black, Indigenous, and underrepresented students and communities. The goal of our series is threefold. We spotlight current scholarship, offering examples of the rich ways servingness is enacted by faculty and staff across the institution. We learn together about engaging in these efforts, and we build knowledge. We address the questions, what next steps are needed to build institutional capacity around HSI servingness? Monique and I will share a link in the chat for all of the webinars that we've held over the last 3 years, so you can access them. And I'm thrilled to tell you a little bit about today's featured speakers. I've had the opportunity to work more closely this year with some of today's speakers as part of the efforts around the Black Faculty Speaker Series, and I am so immensely grateful for their partnership, their wisdom, their care, and their vision. I'd first like to introduce Dr. Amy Kraehe. She is the Associate Vice President for Equity in the Arts and Associate Professor of Art. She is the co-founder and co-director of the Racial Justice Studio. Amy is recognized for her research on arts equity, as well as her publications, workshops, podcasts, and public lectures that illuminate the roles race, racism, and anti-racism play in arts institutions and the education of arts professionals. Lynn Robinson is the Arts Equity Program Coordinator for Arizona Arts. She is also a doctoral student in the Arts and Visual Culture Education Program, with an extensive background in exhibit design and as a curatorial assistant for small and large museums. Her research focuses on public-private community partnerships to mend gaps between cultural centers and formal and informal educators serving vulnerable populations. Tioni Collins is a student diversity program specialist in the College of Fine Arts. She has experience as a director, actor, theater teacher, counselor, and public speaking coach. She has previously taught at Contra Costa College and Solana College in California, and she has performed professionally and abroad and brings her own experiences as a first-generation college student to support others as they navigate both the predictable and hidden challenges of higher education. And she is joined by 2 of her incredible students who will share today as well. Finally, Dr. Gloria Wilson. Gloria is an associate professor in the School of Art and founding co-director of the Racial Justice Studio. Her research is situated within critical pedagogies, cultural studies, Black studies, visual studies, and transnational feminisms. As an artist, a public scholar, qualitative arts-based methodologist, she has presented her research nationally and internationally, highlighting the intersections of racial identity and arts participation. Please help me welcome today's guests. And that over to you, I think, Amy, right?
Yes, thank you for that introduction, Judy. I am excited to be part of this series and have learned so much from prior webinar presenters. So it's a great honor to be invited to talk about how we in Arizona Arts are centering servingness in and through the arts. I'd like to start off by providing some context for what you will hear about today before I hand the mic over to my amazing collaborators and colleagues who will spotlight 3 signature student-focused initiatives. Arizona Arts became a new division at the U of A in 2019. It serves as a unified gateway to the visual and performing arts programs, experiences, and assets on the university campus. Arizona Arts brings together the highly regarded academic programs in the College of Fine Arts. These include the School of Dance, Art, Music, and Theater, Film, and Television, as well as the university's world-class arts presenting and engagement units, including Arizona Arts Live, the Center for Creative Photography, and the University of Arizona Museum of Art. We are dedicated to educating, connecting, and inspiring every member of the Wildcat community and all visitors to the University of Arizona campus. At Arizona Arts, we value diversity as a cornerstone of creativity. And yet, it might surprise some of you, or perhaps not, to hear that the way the arts are organized in US pre-K through 20 educational institutions, as well as creative cultural industries, does not serve people of diverse backgrounds all that well. Too many young people do not see themselves or their aesthetic sensibilities reflected in the artistic geniuses they are taught to revere in schools and university, or that they see valorized on museum walls, stages, and widescreen. Low-income Black and Brown students frequently are fed a narrowed curriculum that denies them the opportunity and the right to develop their imaginations, their voice, and their agency in the expansive ways that artistic expression and symbolic cultural production invite. One of the strategic goals of Arizona Arts is to create meaningful arts experiences for all students, regardless of their major. Yet we recognize that the arts are not inherently inclusive. There must also be intentionality. Meaningful arts experiences come only when designed with skill, awareness, and commitment to connect students to creative practices, histories, aesthetics, and ways of thinking and being that have been obscured, minimized, and sometimes appropriated without proper context or attribution in the service of upholding Western conceptions of art. Arizona Arts is taking steps to build institutional capacity around HSI servingness by centering student creativity and agency. My fellow presenters from Arizona Arts will now tell you about 3 programs: the Just Arts Fellowship for Student Leaders in the Arts, Salon, and Rehearsals in Anti-Racism. These unique programs expand access to meaningful arts experiences while also contributing to the university environment in which students from diverse backgrounds may thrive. I now turn it over to Lynn.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Dr. Kraehe, we can advance the slide. Okay. In thinking about the term servingness, or rather the manifestation of servingness as an action, as something we do and think through, I asked my colleague what comes up for her. She texted me a list, and immediately I saw our program through it. Next slide, please. Specifically, the idea of being inness and ofness, and further existing with. Next. Being with seemed the red string that tied us all together, and I imagine the other topics of the webinars in this series. In that, I'd like to tell you about the Just Arts Fellowship for Student Leaders in the Arts, a new college-wide opportunity started in Arizona Arts, but built for the experiential gain of all students at U Arizona. Next, please. And next. Spearheaded by Dr. Amy Kraehe, who introduced us, as Associate Vice President for Equity in the Arts, the Just Arts Fellowship invites student leaders to design and complete a change-oriented project that increases student access to meaningful arts experiences. Fellows identify challenges, generate creative solutions, and collaborate with student peers and Arizona arts mentors to bring a more just vision of the arts to life. The vision for Just Arts was co-created by students serving on the Arizona Arts D&I Committee, with the understanding that the siloing that happens across the arts and generally universities creates a feeling of individualism that feels harmful to the people-focused work we are all attempting to do. So, allow me to introduce our 2022-2023 Just Arts Fellows and their projects. Next slide, please. First, Ariana Aquino's DEI dance gatherings are intended to create a safe and empowering space for student expression. In a project titled Breaking Borders, Making Bridges, Carlos Garcia Ramirez will increase awareness, knowledge, and understanding of Mexican music and culture in the borderlands. Dorothea Stevenson's research-based project Beyond Europe will catalyze conversations about how to diversify and decolonize standard music repertoire. Dylan Kraehe is developing an accessible performance group to address the scarcity of theater opportunities for BIPOC and queer students and those who live at the intersections of those identities. And last but not least, Josh Barber's project connects the local hip hop community with the university by organizing a series of events to teach students graffiti, rap, and breaking, which will dovetail into the Tucson Hip Hop Festival. Next slide, please. At its core, in these projects and the program, we are guided by these questions, which help frame the needs of the fellows and the ultimate desires of their projects. These are the questions that engaging servingness are built through. At its core, the initiative centers student voice and experience in naming challenges and forwarding novel solutions tailored to the U-Arizona context and the arts community. Next slide, please. I am called to a quote by author and editor and mother, Toni Morrison. How do I do the work from where I am? How do we start the small fires that work towards change? How can naming barriers that push us towards individualism and wrestling with what it means to center ourselves together can build efforts towards capacity and essentially being with? Thank you.
You're muted. Thank you.
Hi, it helps when I unmute myself. Can you hear me now? Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
great.
My name is Tioni Collins, and I will be talking about our Invisibility Salon, which has started on campus. Oops, I'm trying to multitask here. I am the Student Diversity Program Specialist for the College of Fine Arts, and my main job is to support students, and I do that in a variety of ways. I am a direct resource for students learning to navigate the university and all of its system, which sometimes includes helping them learn the skills that they need to, I call it adulting. But I'm also the creator of the Invisibility Salon. And what the Invisibility Salon is, it's a student-focused group that creates space for students from historically excluded and marginalized backgrounds within the visual and performing arts. And we are not only providing students an outlet for expression and a chance to be seen and heard, but we are also creating a network and community to inspire and support each other that may not exist in their classroom spaces yet. We're working on that too. Our logo, oops, there we go. So this is the invisibility part of our logo, and it represents the idea of foregrounding voices of those who've been made to feel ignored, hence the capital V and the minimization of the IN part of invisibility. So we have Invisibility, which started as the group, and then that turned into Salon. And this logo was created by 2D art student Nina Pita, who was a Salon member. And it encompasses the representation, as you can see, from all 4 schools within the College of Fine Arts. The Fred Fox School of Music, the School of Dance, the School of Art, and the School of Theater, Film, and Television. We also have it put in on our shirts as well. I'm sorry. Too many things trying to happen at once. So why it's called the Salon, it's an acronym for Student Artist Live Opportunity Night. And a salon in a traditional sense alludes to this fancy 16th century elite artistic gatherings of Europe, which were also called salons. And we are gathering to discuss and create art in all its forms, but without all of the pretension that went along with the 16th century European versions. In addition to developing their artistic voices and building community, we are helping students to learn agency and how not only to carve out safe spaces for themselves, but places to be able to push boundaries and not being afraid to fail big. I often say, and the students can back me up, that if you're going to be a bear, you may as well be a grizzly. Go and do it. This is school. This is an opportunity for you to do such things. So the salon, the night of the salon is an evening accompanying both completed works as well as works in progress, and is an opportunity for students not only to share themselves, but to get feedback from people who hold these safe spaces for them to help do their thing and help them to grow as an artist. In addition to putting on the salon, the students are also responsible for all of the behind the scenes things that go on, the creation of all of the technical elements, learning how to promote themselves, learning what it takes to go into advertising, to doing the catering. They do all of the organizational elements within. And I have a few pictures from our last year's salon, because wait, no, thank you. So this is our t-shirts, as well as these are 2 of our BFA musical theater students. And we also had several students from the School of Art. And I brought with me today 2 of my students, Alicia Damian and Emma Wilkins, who have been with me from the beginning as participants. As a matter of fact, I walked up to Alicia in the hallway in December of 2021. I said, Alicia, I have this idea. I'm going to put together an event for all the students that don't have space to do things. What do you think? And she immediately was like, I'm in. And so with that, I'll hand it over to Alicia to talk about her experience for the past year with Salon.
Hi, my name is Alicia Damian. I'm double majoring in music education and theater, and like Tioni said, I've been a member of Salon since it very started. I really love being a part of this. It really grounded me. I'm from Yuma, so it really was a thing that grounded me in Tucson. And I wrote down like 3 points as to why it has benefited me as a student. First, it has given me an opportunity to practice my leadership and to be a leader. Since I'm going to be a future teacher, I really need to know how to advocate for myself as someone from a marginalized community and advocate for my future students, especially in the worlds of education and the fine arts. And then it has also helped me with my confidence as an artist. I wrote a monologue for the very first time for the first Salon event, and I never thought that I'd ever be able to write something like that, and I never thought that I'd ever get the chance to create something to share with people. And it was just something that was so fulfilling, and it made me very proud. And then the third reason was that it's also helped me with my activism. I want to be an activist, and it has propelled me into knowing how to go about that, how to be researched, and how to represent myself and how to represent other people. So I'm very grateful for all the opportunities this has given me, and this is only the start. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. I also want to point out about her monologue that my 75-year-old aunt who attended it still talks about and asked me about Alicia and her monologue, because it was something very personal and spoke to her. And I'd also like to introduce Emma Wilkins, who is a senior also graduating this year as another double major in theater arts and political science. And Emma has been our organizer. It says project assistant, but she has been so much more than that. She has been the, like, I don't know, any spreadsheet, any organization, anything that needs to be done, Emma has taken that head on and is cracking the whip and keeping us on deadlines and making all of our calendars. So take it away, Emma.
Hi, I am Emma Wilkins. As Tioni said, I am a political science and theater double major. I have been a part of Salon since last year, and I originally joined Salon because I thought it was something important. I had no intention of creating any art or sharing any work, but I knew that the arts have been exclusionary to certain groups of people for a long period of time, and Salon seemed like a solution or a way to address this issue in a very clear way. And it was a great initiative. So I wanted to be a part and support my fellow artists and help them share their stories. As Tioni said, I am the project assistant, so I'm in charge of sort of organizing everything and making sure people are active and participating and helping people, getting people engaged and know who we are, which is something that I wouldn't have the opportunity to do in a classroom setting, though the university does have an arts admin minor. We do not get the opportunity in the classroom to actually explore the business side of the arts, which is something that I get to do with Salon. And I'm really grateful for it to practice my professional skills in a sort of safe university setting where I can make mistakes, but still be supported and still be of support to other people as well. Connecting with students of historically marginalized groups has been something really opening to me, because our education system continues to exclude people without even realizing it, and having that space for a discussion to even happen is really impactful to me, because even though I'm aware of all of the politics of our country, actually seeing it and how it affects other people is very daunting in comparison to just reading it. So it's very impactful to me to be a part of Salon and to be a support and help students in ways that we haven't had the opportunity to do in the past.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Alicia. I'm looking forward to to this year's as well. We've got new things happening. Our Salon this year is March 30th. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to forward the slides as well. This is a picture on the left. You see a picture from last year's Salon, and on the right you see we added an event this year in the fall. The day before finals for the fall semesters, we had a blow off some steam event, a chance to get together, and there was food, there was karaoke, there was a loom to practice weaving. We had sun prints and button making, all kinds of things, just as it was BOSS, blow off some steam. And we also opened ourselves up to bring in new people and let them know that we're here. We're still in the stage of advertising, recruiting, getting people in to let everyone know within the College of Fine Arts, and now the entire university know that we exist and we are accessible to them. And thank you so much. And I will pass the mic to Dr. Gloria Wilson.
Thank you, Tioni. I love that. I love that, boss. I love that so much. And I also appreciated listening to both Emma and Alicia, or Alicia. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. But your narratives of the ways that you all have participated, and as Lynn introduced this notion of servingness and being with, and it seems, being with through education, being with, having a different understanding. I just really, even though I have not been able to participate directly in Salon, I've wanted to. It's really affirming to hear your narratives. And so I really appreciate what you all have shared. And so as Judy mentioned in the beginning, I'm Gloria Wilson. I am one of 3 founding co-directors of Racial Justice Studio. My other co-conspirator on this webinar, Amy Kraehe, is the other founding co-director, and we also have Chelsea Farrar, who I don't know whether or not she's present with us today in the audience, but she is with the University Museum of Art here in Arizona. And I felt that I should probably start with a contextualization of Racial Justice Studio before I get into one of our programs that we are more specifically getting into today, the Rehearsals in Anti-Racism course. RJS, as we refer to Racial Justice Studio, is an initiative of Arizona Arts here at the University of Arizona. And it was conceived through the collaboration of the 3 co-directors during the fall of 2020 as a hub for campus and virtual activities that help Arizona Arts achieve 3 aims specifically. One is to promote a deep understanding of racism and production of anti-racist knowledge through creative practice and arts-based research as broadly conceived as possible. Number 2 is to provide transformative learning opportunities and community engagement that build race consciousness in and through the arts. And 3, to build connections, compassion, and co-conspiratorship among students, faculty, departments, initiatives, centers, and institutes within and beyond the Arizona Arts that share a commitment to anti-racism. And as we were thinking about the building of this initiative, we realized that studios in particular have broad relevance to all the arts disciplines. They're spaces of risk-taking and trying new things and reflection and action. And racial justice is at the heart of this particular studio. Racial Justice Studio rests upon 5 principles of engagement, and these principles are pillars that support the enactment of anti-racism in the studio. A few of those are that the principle of endemic anti-Blackness is a commitment to centering race, anti-Black racism, and the relationship between the arts and white supremacy rooted in anti-Blackness. Another is the principle of justice as a process, which recognizes that racial justice is not an endpoint, but instead is a lifelong process carried out in innumerable everyday actions and decisions. The principle of non-exploitation means that we will not ask BIPOC people to do work without compensating them fairly for their labor. The principle of accountability, which requires that racial justice be linked to outcomes and impact and not goodwill or best intentions. And finally, that the principle of timelessness holds that racism is endemic, enduring, and evolving, and thus rejects any treatment of racism as timely or on trend. Racial Justice Studio is currently developing 3 programs. As you saw on that previous slide, Race Remix, which is an interdisciplinary dialogue with featured speakers, artists, activists, scholars in the arts, and also a related podcast. Creative Abolitionist Teaching Fellows, which is an interlevel organizational network that brings together artists and educators who teach in schools and universities to develop anti-racist pedagogies and curricula using the lens of contemporary arts. And finally, what we're spotlighting today is the Rehearsals in Anti-Racism course, which is a student-centered course that I'll explain a little bit more as we move on. So next slide, please. Thank you. Rehearsals in Anti-Racism is a course designed to engage students in personal, political, philosophical, and aesthetic conversations about race, racism, and their intersections with other markers of identity. It's an inquiry-based course that uses workshop-style teaching methods that center creative activities. So conversations about race move beyond words to something more affective, with an A, affective, embodied, and participatory. The curriculum is emergent, which means that students help shape the thematic direction, which is really exciting about the course, because week by week, the students get to decide whether or not they'd like deeper engagement in a specific topic that we've touched upon for that week, or whether they're ready to move on. And so themes that are addressed in the course might include othering and belonging, bodies in space, surveillance and policing, well-being and trauma, social media and truth, and more. It's a course that emphasizes arts-based processes. Students' active participation and risk-taking are essential to the success in learning how systemic racism affects their own histories, perceptions, and relationships, as well as how to creatively intervene in a world structured by racial inequality. The course, which launched in the fall of 2021, is in its second iteration. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned before, we explore a variety of themes through various texts. And so this semester, we've chosen these 3 texts to guide our work. In the text Just Us, Claudia Rankin describes a series of racialized encounters with friends and strangers, and it includes arts such as collages and poetry, first-person prose, and it also remixes historical documents of social media posts and also academic scholarship and studies. In the Be Anti-Racist Journal by Ibram X. Kendi is a comprehensive journal which offers the opportunity for students to reflect on their personal commitment to anti-racism. And last but not least, the third text by Dr. Amy Kraehe, who is on this webinar with us, provides strategies for conversations on race through a well-informed introduction to essential concepts, vocabularies, strategies, and methods for engaging race and racialized human difference in a constructive and equity-oriented manner. Next slide, please. So here we see students engaging in a rehearsal. But before this, and at the beginning of the course, students collaborate in smaller groups to develop what will become the rules of engagement for the duration of the course. And in the rehearsal that you see pictured here, students are taking turns tracing their bodies for an identity mapping exercise. And so students use various arts processes and materials to periodically return to their traced silhouettes throughout the semester to engage and activate their discussions, as well as provocations, which are facilitated by the course instructors. And as you saw on a previous slide, the course instructors for this semester are myself, as well as Lynn Robinson, who's on this webinar. And many times these engagements produce such an affective response, which often resonates through deep and intense silences. Next slide, please. So another example of activating the arts is through written and performed poetic responses, which students take up both individually and collaboratively. And here you see an example of a student's blackout poetic response to this very specific prompt. The prompt was, when did you first come to realize your race? Describe where you were, who was there, and how you felt in your body. All right, next slide, please. And in order to share this knowledge, to move this knowledge forward, we make this scholarship public. And in 2022, the fall of 2022, we participated in the Facing Race Conference, which was held in our backyard in Phoenix, Arizona. And Facing Race is documented as the largest multiracial, intergenerational gathering for organizers, educators, creatives, and other leaders in the community. There we had an engaged audience of educators, organizers, creatives, movement builders, media makers, and other types of influencers. And so I'm just so excited to be able to share this work with you all today. Thank you so much.
So at this point, we do have time for questions, discussion. And Judy, I'm not sure if you are moderating that.
Yep, I can definitely do that. Trish, I know that you posted a question in the Q&A box, and Lynn responded to it, but I think it's one that would be helpful maybe for everyone to hear and talk about a little bit, because it speaks to building capacity and resources for some of these opportunities for students. And so let's see if we can unmute you really quickly so you can join the conversation and pose your question. Accept that. I think she may have logged off. So we can read it and pose it and then have the conversation. So she asked, well, she commented, love the arts, love the Just Arts Fellowship and the diversity of student projects. How are the fellowships funded? Is it scholarship-based or project support-based? And Lynn, I don't know if you want to take it since you responded and have others jump in.
Yeah, I can respond to that. Sorry, I sound a little loud to myself. So the Just Arts Fellowship is funded through donor funds, and it was kind of brought together by working really in tandem with the philanthropy office and matching, you know, the desires of our donors with what actually is trying to get funded within Arizona Arts. So it just happened at the right time. So students are awarded a $6,000 stipend, which is given out per semester, so $3,000 per semester. And then they also have an additional $1,500 that they can use for the execution of their projects. So in total, $7,500 of direct funds. But then we also invited the fellows to attend the Facing Race conference because we had budgeted in the funds for that. We thought that the students would actually go in person to the conference. It was in Phoenix, but also students have whole lives and classes and things that they're already doing. So they joined virtually. So we were able to pay for the registration fees for that. So that's kind of where the money is coming from and going. Dr. Kraehe, do you have anything to add on that? You're a little bit closer to the funding knowledge than I am.
Sure. The bulk of the resources were absolutely philanthropic. And then we also had a lot of staff support that we brought to the table with Arizona Arts. So fundraising is absolutely a part of making arts programs happen at all, and then build capacity within them. Can I pose a question back to Lynn? Lynn, can you say more about how capacity was built for the students to do these projects? There were 5 change projects. It's an unusual thing for students to be able to have the opportunity to dream up something that will have an impact on their peers in a real way, have the resources for it. But there are other supports that went along with it as well. I wonder if you could talk about that.
How long have we been on Zoom? And I cannot remember to unmute myself. Right. So from the beginning, in imagining what this project would look like, we imagined that we wouldn't be the only facilitators, meaning it would be Tioni. I was going to say Lynn and I, but I'm Lynn, Dr. Kraehe and I as facilitators, but imagining the Arizona community as being a source of knowledge for the students in various aspects of what they need to complete these 5 completely different, right? They're so different change-oriented projects, and we really focused in on leadership skills, on project management skills, time management, which is very difficult, especially when you're a student, presentation skills, learning how, to create a budget, and then essentially learning how to document, right? To document the things that you're doing so that your work can go further, whether you're planning on, speaking at a conference like we did, or if you're planning on taking the project beyond the 1-year academic term of the fellowship and apply for further grants. So we kind of gathered a group around us that could do that. We invited Dr. Dawn Dimps, who is a professor here in the College of Education, to speak on community engagement and doing that in an equitable way, a way that is responsive to the community, and imagining not only the community at Arizona, but the more immediate community in Tucson and in Arizona, and how this can go further. We brought in a student that's actually in my PhD program, Eli Burke, who was able to speak on designing a project using design theory. So it's just really interesting and very varied. But it just wasn't us as, staff within Equity in the Arts or Arizona Arts. It was really reaching out and relying on the knowledge base that we have here at Arizona, and once again trying to break that siloing that happens often at a university where, especially here at this university, where we have one of our programs, the School of Dance, located all the way across campus, right? So how can we bring in the voices from there as well? And yes, that's kind of how we did that. I think it's really been like a group kind of project where, everyone has really jumped on engaging with the students and helping them grow their projects.
I want to mention one last thing. On March 23rd, the fellows are doing a public presentation of their projects, and it's open to everyone at the university. It will be in person, and we are working on being able to stream that as well, because we want folks to see how it all gets built and to hear from the students, because that is further capacity building. So 6 to 8 p.m. Tucson time, March 23rd.
Hi, everyone. This is Maria de la Cruz, and I'm with Pueblo Community College, but I'm also been a longtime activist and educator. We have a nonprofit organization, the Wahatoya Cultural Center. We engage in Indigenous, Native American. It's a Native American predominantly center, but we welcome all people to join with us. But I've done a lot of work on a political level and other things. This is really exciting to me to hear what you're all doing. And I just wanted to say that perhaps your projects that you're developing could go beyond the title, the umbrella of art. I mean, what you're doing really is cultural, fits in with cultural preservation, confidence building. I think your projects could be utilized in almost any academic discipline to really enhance students' performance, the performance of students from varied cultural backgrounds. We've done a lot of work with Indigenous students who, and among some tribal entities, it's not really, we're not really taught to just speak out and verbally, but we perform, not necessarily perform, we share through singing, through crafts work, and these are arts that are being lost, or parts of our culture that are being lost. And if we could embrace the artistic aspects of culture to really help students have greater voice, it's just going to really help these students be successful regardless of their field of study. And so my thought is there may be funding for some of these projects to be adopted by the psychology department, by Native Studies department, by sociology department, but even by sciences, social sciences. Many departments could really benefit from embracing the projects you're developing. And so I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. I mean, that's so good here because that is kind of the intention. It's that the arts are often, placed to the side in a university context. So it's not necessarily going beyond the arts, but allowing the arts to seep through those other disciplines, right? How can we imagine psychologists using the arts to, do their work? How can we imagine, those working in Native studies and, activists using the arts to preserve their heritage and do the work that they're doing. So yeah, all of our projects are really centering the arts because the arts has been a proven way to move conversation forward, to move work forward, and to move really critical thought in really good directions. So thank you, Maria. I appreciate that.
I wonder if Gloria could talk about how rehearsals in anti-racism has been received by different audiences who are imagining what that course is about through the lens of their own context.
Absolutely. I really appreciate how Lynn grounded this conversation around servingness and the notion of being with. And what I have noticed, sorry about my technology, you all. I think my computer is just glitching out no matter where I am. I thought if I changed locations, it might help, but but coming from a K-12 background, more specifically teaching visual art in middle school and high school context, and coming into higher ed, what I know to be true are learners learn deeply when they're in the presence of a space in which they feel safe and with trusting people who they trust. And what I found is in teaching through this course, and Lynn might also speak to this as well, since we're co-teaching. And Lynn, I didn't mention before, Lynn was a student in the course in the fall of 2021 when Amy Kraehe and I were co-teaching it together. So she brings a lens from a student perspective in order to move the curriculum forward. But I think we were having this conversation today in class. A student had asked, how do you move this work forward and feel safe, and also, know that you might be the target of outside forces, which, for lack of a better way to say it, is that come for you. How do I keep my family safe? And I think I had to, really go back to, thinking about, and I'm sorry, I can't think of the scholar's name who put forward the work around characteristics of white supremacy, which mean perfectionism, which mean, this indebtedness to the notion of time. And often we don't think about how much time it takes to really be with people and develop communities and communities of trust, and how people can in spaces where they feel protected and they trust one another, then you have an added layer of protection around you. I often use the example of the white male activist who placed his hand on the pole when Bree Newsom in South Carolina scaled the pole in order to take down the Confederate flag. And these two organizers, Bree Newsom, and I believe his first name was James, I can't ever think of his last name, but they had only met days prior. And James had learned of this plan that Bree Newsom, wanted to take down the Confederate flag. And he literally placed his body, on the flagpole in the face of police surveillance with a taser. And knowing history and context, knowing that his body would probably be protected in ways that hers never could be, he placed his hand on the pole in order to protect this Black young woman. knowing historical context that Black women suffer a certain precarity, as well as other minoritized bodies. And so small acts of trust and of risk-taking, which is exactly what Rehearsals in Anti-Racism brings forward, allows that space for students to build these relationships with one another that allow them to harness what the arts can affectively produce in a space. And they're just willing to go there and know that perfection is not what we're striving for. You know, we're striving to practice, we're striving to rehearse, which is how the name Rehearsals came into being, activating the arts vocabularies in order to remind everyone that this is lifelong work, you know, and we wake up and we rehearse and we practice every day, knowing that it's not going to be perfect, but knowing that we, you know, can build communities of trust and places where we can remind ourselves that we are interdependent, that we do not do this work alone, that this work cannot be done without the help of others.
And Tioni, I saw you unmuted, so I know you have things to share on this question.
I can figure out how to unmute myself again. I just wanted to talk to the point of, instead of arts being added on top, I mean, that has come up a lot. It's it being part of the planning of things, of it being, you know, not just, oh, how can we already have this formed idea or opinion, and we wanted to have a vehicle to get it to people and to make it accessible, but to actually consider the arts in designing all of these different things that you want to happen. It's usually arts gets invited to the table last. So it's the first thing, you know, and public education is the first thing to get cut. So it's still considered an add-on and not something that's essential or crucial. And to start having people rethink the arts as an integral part of communication, learning, all of that.
Thank you all so much. I wonder, Jamie, before we jump over to your question, can we post in the chat? Amy, do you have a link for the March event that we can share with folks? And then is there a link to the podcast that we can also share so that folks have access to the Racial Justice Studio podcast? And I can do that afterwards. I can also link it to our website. I just want to make sure if people have the resources.
I'm going to throw my link in as well.
Yes, please put all the links.
Events.
I want them to have them. And Jamie, we'll turn it over to you for a question.
Okay. I'm not really sure that I sort of have a question, but I wanted to kind of back on, I don't remember who was speaking from PCC, but I'm also from Pueblo Community College, and I am teaching a couple of art classes and a mythology class over there, but I'm also a student I'm working on a master's in eco-psychology. And I agree completely that arts integration into multiple subjects, and I really love what you're doing here. Like, this is really great. I would love to see this available. I mean, I don't really know. I'm trying to form this question. I'm so sorry. For me, even as a eco-psychology student, how could something like this, because I use art in everything that I do, writing performatively, I've educated students K through 12 and adults with special needs most of my life before finally landing in higher education at the community college. And I've always integrated art into every subject that we've ever, that I've ever taught, and I continue to do that now. So I guess my question is, how do I get more information about this fellowship program? I know I was looking at your website kind of while everyone was talking, and I guess that's my question.
This is Maria again. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that, Jamie, we there are also a number of resources available locally. I think the model that's being presented here is amazing, and I think we can take a look at it. But perhaps we can meet those of us at PCC. I see Rebecca has also works in disability resources, is also saying, yeah, she'd like some resources to chew on. Perhaps those of us from PCC who are on this meeting could also have a private sidebar meeting to see what we can, how we can help, like Rayanne and Kim, who are leading some HSI initiatives, how we can perhaps take a look at these things and encourage this at PCC. Rayanne's like, yes, let's do it.
Yes, I would love that, because as I was listening, I was thinking, how can we do this? How can we do this at PCC? Yeah.
Well, I'm excited that you all will meet and have been inspired by this incredible collection of scholars, of resources, of scholarship and research and teaching. Amy, I know you were going to jump in, so I'll turn it over to you to maybe respond, and then for all of you to offer any final words, and then we'll wrap up.
Several links have been put in the chat, so please have a look at those. And materials for the Just Arts Fellowship public presentation, I will send to Judy. She will help get the word out to all of you who registered and attended today. But I want to highlight something that might not be obvious, that all of these programs are less than 2 years old. They're still in their initial stages. We're still experimenting quite a lot, and we collaborate enormously. That is how we're able to get things done. And so we are open and eager for inter-institutional kinds of collaborations, partnerships. We're beginning to craft materials so that we can distribute what the model looks like, how the work gets done here, so that it can be adapted in other spaces. So this is sort of an open invitation to follow up with us, reach out to us, share your ideas with us, particularly if you're in Arizona, but even more broadly. We're very excited for our work to connect with what you're doing and the idea of cultural preservation. I don't think it had even occurred to anyone to frame the work in those terms. And that has opened up so many ideas and avenues for me that I'd like to pursue. And perhaps that could be in partnership with others on this call. So thank you for coming and listening and engaging with us.
Thank you all, Maria and Jamie and Trisha, who posed questions. Thank you all for helping to get the conversation moving. Amy, Lynn, Tioni, Emma, Alicia, and Gloria, you all are just incredible. And I'm so grateful for your time today, but more importantly, for everything that you are doing across the campus, across our communities, with our students. So thank you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. I have been so fortunate to be able to share with different folks around pedagogies of care and culturally responsive curriculum development. And this is the embodiment of some of that. And it's top of mind for me right now because I just came from a session on this, and arts are integral to any type of culturally responsive pedagogical practice. So thank you for doing that and for exemplifying it. Arts are integral to how we think about servingness and how we enact servingness as Hispanic serving institutions. So you've heard throughout how capacity can be built through, with, and in collaboration of the arts. So thank you. Next month, we will be back in March with the new Indigenous Resilience Center. So I'm so excited that you'll be able to hear from some of our colleagues. Dr. Carletta Chief will lead that session and share about the ways in which the Indigenous Resilience Center is working in partnership with our 22 tribal communities in the state. So join us then. We'll post this recording very soon, and I hope you all have a great week. Thank you.